Well, good afternoon. I'm extremely honored to be standing here amongst a sea of acclaimed leaders. I think you guys all recognize that you're the next generation of role models for the young girls that we talked about earlier, as well as females that are looking to pursue impactful careers in the areas of entrepreneurship, engineers, designers, computer scientists, and CEOs. There's many of you in here as well. But I think first I want to thank Yannicka and Joelle and the entire team at Inspiring 50 for putting on this wonderful event. Their commitment to celebrating female leaders and addressing gender imbalance is truly remarkable. When I go back home, oftentimes after this type of conference with a bunch of female leaders, I talk to my colleagues, most of them are men, and they ask me this question: why are females celebrating females? And to that, I respond two things. Men, you have your own celebrations about how you're ruling the world. And two, if it's not us, then who? We come together because I think we need to inspire the next generation of females to join our ranks. We come together to celebrate our successes. And then, quite frankly, too many in our industry whose accomplishments are getting overlooked. The truth is that women have had influence around innovation in the past, present, and future. And many of you are examples of that influence. I spent time reading a lot of your bios and thinking about the Inspiring 50. And what I learned and what I uncovered were two things: transformation and technology. In today's society, transformation and technology are becoming synonymous. Technology has, quite frankly, changed how we live. And if you look at the various industries, it has completely changed almost every single industry, including the ones that I'm focused on: fashion, sports, fitness, retail, and if I had more time, I could probably list every single industry. The fact is that every organization has to think like a technology company in order for it to transform and grow. And when you think about transformation, there are human beings behind transformation. And many of them are the women here in this room driving that revolution and, quite frankly, making it a positive impact on society. But I think in addition to celebrating all of you today, we should take a step back and reflect on those females that really trailblazed before us. There are four individuals that, for me, had a personal impact on my career, or for, quite frankly, when I'm in the tech industry, they often get highlighted. They are Ada Lovelace, Marie Curie, Grace Hopper, and the Sheryl Sandberg. Their contributions in the field of computer science, engineering, math, and technology qualify them as inspiring. Ada Lovelace, the enchantress of numbers. She is a mathematician back in the 19th century who wrote the first instruction sets for computer programming. Her work was uncovered in the 1950s. But it wasn't about her mathematician that truly inspired me. What inspired me was her own imagination. She was able to show what can be done if you're given the opportunity to pursue math and science. Then you have Marie Curie, who has inspired many of us in the world of Intel. She was the first woman that won a Nobel Prize in the area of physics, and she was the first person that won the second Nobel Prize in the area of chemistry. And yes, receiving a Nobel Prize is an honor, but it was this specific quote that has changed me forever. There's something in life to be feared. There's nothing in life to be feared. It is only to be understood. Now is the time to understand more so that we fear less. And that's about intellectual curiosity, asking the question. And then there's Grace Hopper. Grace Hopper was a person that influenced me when I was in college. She was often known as Amazing Grace. She invented the first compiler, which was a precursor to COBOL. And I was sitting in a room of a bunch of males, engineers, studying this language. And I looked around and I said, if she could do it, so can I. There's another story. I left computer science degree for a completely different reason. We'll talk about it over cocktails. But she forever will remain in my heart. And then there's Sheryl Sandberg. She wasn't a mathematician nor a scientist, but her impact in technology cannot be overlooked. In fact, she's challenging the tech industry to make it to see itself differently. It's about challenging the status quo and embracing diversity and driving inclusion. I am in awe of these four ladies, but I'm equally, I believe, that we should be in awe of each other in this room. We have all contributions in the tech industry. And then from my perspective, I haven't won a Nobel Prize, nor have I written a computer programming language yet. I do have the honor of leading Intel into the next generation of computing, which we call sensification. At Intel, I work with a group of talented individuals, one who's here by the name of Hillary McGinnis, in the areas of fashion, sports, and fitness. I often like to say I have the best job at Intel. And in the area of fashion, our job may be simple, and it's bringing fashion and technology together. Ironically, it's very different. In the world of technology, standardization is very important. How many different PCs do you see, or how many different smartphones do you see in the world? Not that many. But when you start to put things on your body, the conversation becomes very different. It's about personalization, individualization, and variation. I brought with me one of our first entry into the world of wearables. Many people had no idea that this was actually a computer. And to understand and appreciate the end product, you should understand the backstory. When we first started, quite frankly, it was an ugly plastic bracelet. And many of the engineers, who you can imagine were men, wanted to inject as much technology as you can, every millimeter of it possible with technology. They also wanted to add a lot of software functionality. Then there was a contrarian point of view, you guessed it, females, where we said, first and foremost, it has to be beautiful and it has to be functional. What if we remove technology? God forbid we remove technology. And we challenged their perspective. We said we don't need a screen at the top, we need a screen in the back that is discrete. We want content that's glanceable, and engineers would talk about glanceable content. And I said, we often females put our smartphones in our bag and we miss those important SMS messages from our husbands, and then we have to go home and hear the wrath from them later. And so they began to understand the importance of both design and functionality. It was such a beautiful piece of technology in which it ended up in a high luxury retail store in the United States called Barney's, New York. If you understand Barney's, New York, getting something like this was a massive hurdle. So if we want to deliver compelling experiences driven by technology, then I firmly believe that these experiences need to be addressed for the entire population, not just half of the population. And yes, this means that we need to address the females. In fact, in the US, if you think about it, 70% of the females make the purchasing decisions. So during my tenure, I have seen firsthand how leaders like yourself must have a seat at the table. I'm going to share another story. Just recently in the United States, there was a woman in college who ended she was coming from a ballerina class to her dorm room. It was basically a 5-minute walk. She never made it back. Next day, I went to the office because it reminded me of those days when I was in college, fearful of walking back to my college room. And quite frankly, in today's world, when I take the train and walk to my car, I'm often very fearful, and I have keys between my knuckles to ensure that I could avoid anybody that may attack me. So I spoke to the engineers about this, can technology help create a safer environment for our girls that are going to college? They came back and said, well, what about a smartphone? And I said, if you think about it, smartphones in the United States, specifically in San Francisco, will not thwart an attacker, will actually bring an attacker towards you because they actually want to steal that smartphone from you, 1. 2, they're going to recognize that you're going to call 911. What we need is a secret weapon. So these opinions and perspectives of women innovators must have a seat at the table. And at Intel, working at Intel, I'm very proud to say that we're going to make a difference and we're going to make a change. During his keynote at the International Computer Electronics Show back in January 2015, Intel CEO Brian Krzanich challenged our tech industry to take a step to diversify the workforce. He took on one of the biggest audacious goals in the industry. He made a claim that by 2020, we will have full representation of underrepresented minority and women in the US workforce. Pretty big. And not only did Brian do this, he challenged the entire industry to look at their overall population because he firmly believes that having a diverse workforce is going to change, is going to shape the future. So what are we doing? Because you can talk about it, but really what's important is to take action. First, we've committed $300 million to diversity and technology initiatives. We are making investments to help support the pipeline in both computer and science engineering, and also foster the hiring and inclusion of underrepresented minorities and females. One of those programs is in our very backyard. Low-income school, we believe it starts, and as many of you guys have stated, from an early age, K through 12. We're investing in those kids at an early age. We have committed to sponsoring them when they go to college, and oftentimes you're fearful, are you going to get a job? Intel's committed to giving them a job upon graduation. At Intel's U.S. workforce, we also believe that having representation at a leadership position is equally important. I am actually a product of a sponsorship program that existed within Intel. If I did not have, and I always tell people the difference between a sponsorship and mentorship is very different. A mentor would advise, and a sponsor is going to advocate for you. So I had a group of sponsors that advocated for me and my leadership and promoted me to the next ranks. So I have to tell you that I'm really proud of Intel and what we have accomplished. So far, 43.3% of our hires are underrepresented minority and females, and our goal was 40%. More African Americans and women are working at Intel today than last year. In the leadership ranks, we have more underrepresented females, underrepresented minorities, and females in our leadership ranks as well. This is really important because if you think about Intel, Intel's very technical. 85% of our jobs are technical. And you heard the stats earlier on. And in fact, when we ask females and young girls, do you want to pursue a career in science, technology, engineering, and math? Guess how many of them say yes at an early age? 74%. And the reality is quite different. Only 0.3% will choose a computer science degree. That means many of us here in this room have a role to do. Because with a more blended workforce, we will improve cross-pollination of ideas and end a male-centric world. We should agree that males and females are fundamentally different, and we have different worldviews, and we have perspectives that will make a difference and shape the future. After all, men are from Mars and females are from Venus. So the best way to understand half of the population is to have them equally represented in those rooms and in the boardroom. So not only must we lead the charge of full representation in the workforce, we must harbor an environment that everybody can thrive and feel like they belong, including our girls. Speaking as a mother of a daughter, we have to inspire the world of possibility. And this is when I go back to Ada Lovelace. She embraced it more 150 years ago and highlighted the world of can. As a woman climbing a corporate ladder, we must also take our roles as mentors extremely seriously. And we have to help an extending hand when we can. The First Lady of the United States made a very strong quote when she was making her announcement speech, and I carry it with me every day. When you make it to the top, do not close the door behind you. And it gets very difficult because many of us have climbed the corporate ladder, and there's very few of us, which increases competition. And oftentimes we turn against each other. But I often like to state is women who work together will rise together. So today, it's about you, all of you. But you also have to reflect on the past of those females that led before us. And we have to look into the future and inspire the next generation of females because they are going to be the ones that are going to be delivering amazing experiences for every single person on earth. And the last thing I want to say, I want you guys to remember this. Men want to rule the world. Women want to change the world.